Dun 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 dun.
Shut up and listen to the songs.
Hello and welcome back to Shut Up and Listen to the Songs with me, Ben Wilson. It's lovely to have you. We're going to go through what's happening in the world of music at the moment, and hopefully it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've already listened to the little collection of episodes I've put out about how to start up your record experience on the get-go, then thank you very much. It's really appreciated. This is going to be more of the regular magazine sort of format that I'm hoping to get going on a regular basis. So it's going to have bits of news, it's going to have some reviews, we're going to have some features in regards to music geekery, and just some other odds and ends, bits and bobs for fun. Yeah, let's get going with what's happened in the world of music this week. It was the Mercury Prize, which is obviously the big flagship award for albums in the UK each year. It's been going for a quarter of a century now. Always picks a really diverse, wonderful lineup of artists. I'm actually this episode going to be doing a watch along for the ceremony itself. I watched it and I thought it was really interesting, so I'm just going to revisit that and pick out some things that I thought was moderately significant. Spoiler alert, if you haven't already heard, it was won by Sam Fender. I'll be giving you my critical opinion of that victory. Well done to him. So that's coming up this episode. Also in the news recently, Spotify founder Daniel Ek has decided to stand down as CEO of Spotify come the end of the year. This comes off the back of him taking a lot of heat and flack for his continued investment and doubling down in a defense AI firm that also produces drones. I believe they're called Helsing. He's put about $600 million of, let's face it, Spotify subscriptions into technology that's going to be better at quote unquote defense. Bands like Massive Attack and Deerhoof have removed their work from the platform because they find it morally irreprehensible that somebody can be earning a living off a music subscription platform and then putting it towards that. And fair play to those acts that have done that. I can imagine they're thinking, well, is this really going to have an effect or a change? But all this noise has got him out of this position, which I think is wonderful. Obviously Spotify is the biggest player in town when it comes to music streaming platforms. It carries a huge amount of weight in regards to how it treats its artists, how it pays its rates. The environmental impact of all of the data service is not inconsiderable itself. I think streaming in the modern age has its right place. It's not my preferred choice of music listening, but it is also useful to have it there. So that's kind of why I think this is important news, because he founded the company 2006. He's made $10 billion, accrued that personal wealth. So for him to be stepping aside, it's pretty big, and it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And I think more importantly, I think it serves as a good message that if you think it's okay to invest in these sorts of companies, then you can, as we say in our house, go away. The other bit of interesting music news which came across my radar the past month was that Stephen Patrick Morrissey, ex-lyricist and singer of the Smiths, put his business interest in the Smiths up for sale, or at least he had done, because it was done in quite a comical, shoddy manner in that, he published an email address in his personal blog, which didn't seem to work, and then he took it down a few days later. He was basically saying, I want to completely dissociate myself from the Smiths in any sort of business respect. What's he said? He's put up for sale his business rights, which would include things like the band's name, artwork he created, merchandising rights, lyrical and musical compositions, synchronizations, recordings, and publishing contractual rights. Yes, I was reading that. So he basically is trying to, completely disassociate himself from arguably the greatest guitar band of musical history, which obviously every time I see a story about the Smiths, whether Johnny Marrs said something about their previous relationship, saying how a reunion is further and further away. You've got the sad death of Andy Rourke a couple of years ago. All of these things that are kind of like on the surface of it, yeah, it's making it less and less likely that there would ever be a Smith reunion, which I think on the basis of the Oasis reunion this year is still incredibly sad. Not for the fact that, I've got a particular fondness or affiliation with the Gallagher brothers, but it's the songs themselves. The songs are the star. I think it was Joe Meek, who was an early Smiths manager, who said that people aren't coming to see you, they're coming to hear the songs. And if you looked at the people's reception to those songs in the Oasis gigs, it's like, yeah, that's entirely right. And I think it would still be the same for the Smiths. And so I kind of work on the big universal chaos model, in that any chaos to a situation can only be good because it's going to get you somewhere different than where you are. So yeah, Morrissey's business interests were up for sale. They're not anymore. He looked a bit of a tid, as per.
Shut up and listen to the songs.
So I'm going to review a couple of albums. I think this would be quite nice to do every episode. Sometimes an old album, sometimes a contemporary album, maybe one of each. We'll see how that goes. But I kind of wanted to round up these two records that have been released this year. Yeah, I find music reviews quite interesting because sometimes you can spend 2,000 words saying, yeah, it's not bad. And sometimes words absolutely fail to do justice to the wonderful and the brilliance of albums. And so hopefully I'm going to try and keep these reasonably brief. I know it's reductive to score things in a number, but it's also helpful as well. I'm going to go with the classic 1 to 10, the old Enemy album scoring system. Stars are for movies, and by the way, you never have half a star. Whoever saw half a star in the universe? Like, don't be so bloody stupid. It's numbers or it's whole stars. Stars are for movies, numbers are for albums. You're welcome. So, the first of the albums that I want to look at that was released this year is the recent Wet Leg album, Moisturizer. The Isle of Wight band came back after their eponymous debut. They were heralded as saviours of indie guitar rock when it came out with their admittedly very catchy songs back in these early 2020s. And yeah, it was a massive red flag for me, the fact that so much hype and kind of pressure on a band was placed on them, when they had some good songs, but people really were going quite overboard. So it was interesting to see what they were coming back with their sophomore effort. And so I think it was Catch These Fists, which was the first song that to publicize the album. So I took a punt on it, and yeah, I've got to say it's really good. I really do like it. You've got this wonderful, almost like a musical trifle thing going on, where there's three blokes in the band. You've got the bassist, the drummer, and a guitarist, and they're kind of really grungy, Sonic Youth, hard, scuzzy, really well driven, really good rhythm section going on there. But then the two front women, Hester Chambers and Rhiannon Teasdale, they've got lovely hooks and licks and melodic lines in their lyrics, and I think it just works really well together. And I think they've developed really nicely between these albums. When you're listening to it, you can tell that this is a band that have spent a good few years touring on the road because they're really tight. It's really nice. And I watched a recent radio concert that was on YouTube. I think it's for KEXP, and you watch them, and yeah, they look absolutely nails. It's really quite impressive. So the album itself, it's also a nice musical evolution because in the first album they were writing songs about things around them. So there was obscure movie references, references to warm lager, and all those other things you'd expect if you were starting out doing the toilet tour of indie music venues. This one has kind of seen them, broaden out in regards to the subjects, and I think it's Rhian Teasdale. She talks about falling in love, which a lot of people would classify as a form of mental illness, and it's absolutely euphoric. The way that she's describing it. There is one particular song. I think it's definitely one of my favourite songs of the year, Davina McCall, where she's describing all these things that she would do for her new partner. Go to pick them up from the station, sail through stormy weather, go through an hour of hell. No, I'd go through hell to spend an hour with you, and it's just like, yeah, that is just absolutely wonderful. So, musically, I really like it. I'm giving it musically 8 out of 10, and I'm also going to score the vinyl package because, yep, obviously I've got it on vinyl. This is a really nice package. It's a limited edition clear vinyl, and you also get the download. In fact, actually, it gets extra points for the vinyl download. It's only one disc, which I kind of like. It means that it's kept nice and tight and concise. It's got a nice inner, and it looks fun. And also as well, the fact that it's one disc, it's not got a gatefold, it's not got fancy art, bells and whistles, kind of keeps the cost down as well. Which I still think if you're trying to get to be on as many turntables as possible is, it can't be kind of overlooked. It's only their second album. They're still growing, they're still expanding. So yeah, well done to them. I'm giving this final package an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it gets an 8 for the download code. So yeah, well done to Wet Leg. Enjoy the rest of your tour for the album, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. The next band is slightly further along their musical adventure, and it's an album I've been holding out for quite a while. I think it was 2019, the previous effort. This is Wolf Alice's The Clearing. They've gone away. They've also changed to a major record label, and they've kind of come back with a more deliberately softer, maybe more FM friendly sound. They've talked in their interviews about wanting to reach more people, and also to not be so serious. And I think that's kind of commendable, really, in that, yeah, it's quite easy to stick with what you're doing. You can write sort of grungy, emotionally involved, really great rock albums, but that's not going to move you to a bigger audience than, say, people that listen to Six Music. So I have a test, or in fact, I think I heard about this test where the yardstick for really great artists is if they've got 4 very good to great albums in a row. So you're talking, your 8s, 9s, and 10s. And I think it's fair to say that Wolf Alice's first 3 albums, Visions of a Life, Our Love Is Cool, and Blue Weekend, they do fit that. They're absolutely excellent albums. As a band, not only are they incredibly tight, they've got a great range, and also they look like they're having fun. I've seen them live a couple of times, and that's one thing that I think people forget, is that it should be fun being in a band. You've got a brotherhood, and also I think that's the same for Wet Leg. They look like they're having fun because there are a lot of difficulties being in a band. I think it was the bassist, Theo Ellis. He spoke with the government's cultural committee about the difficulties that bands have in regards to costs, revenue, space. Obviously you need a lot more visas to go touring if you've got a big supporting crew. So I think it's really, really important to champion bands. And the great thing about them going to a major label is that you can see that they've been given, quite a nice bigger budget. You've got artistic music videos. They're not. They've dressed them up. Really fun for their photo shoots. They're going straight into the O2. These are the kind of things that when you've got a major label behind you, they're like, "Yeah, we'll put that money down for you." We're confident on getting the return. And so yeah, there was quite a lot of pressure on this fourth album because it's like, oh well, you could do that as a small indie artist. You could get your cultural cachet, but can you take it up a level? And I think yeah, by and large, they've really done that. There's lots of things about this album that are core Wolf Alice, and I think it's great that they have tried to develop their sound, and try to make it more fun, which is sorely lacking for everybody these days. They came back with the comeback single "Bloom Baby Bloom," which I don't know if you've heard it. It's got that really nice kind of Cuban piano lick. Dun 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 dun. Feels a bit like one of those perpetual motion machines where like it just falls over itself all the time. I thought that was just so energizing and funky and really great. You could have played that with the guitar. You could have thrashed it out, dan 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 dan, and nobody would have been like, "Oh, you should have taken that extra effort to put it on a piano." And that song is brilliant. The way that it kind of goes from like screaming rock to wonderful falsetto, and yeah, I thought it was absolutely great to come back with. So, The Clearing, the album itself, the tracks, the tunes, it's really clear to hear the different kind of sound that they're going from the first one. You've got quite lush orchestral arrangements on the opening track, Thorns. It's like a slow tempo ballad. As I mentioned, Bloom Baby Bloom, I think it's a brilliant single to come back with. Just Two Girls, which is like this really nice love letter to female friendship. It's got real, I find like Steely Dan vibes to the keyboard sound to it. If I was to be overly critical of the album, I'd say that the next three tracks kind of lose their way. So this is the second half of the first side, in that they're quite nondescript. The last of these, Play It Out, is actually quite a nice, like Lana Del Rey esque ballad. But yeah, it doesn't grab me. The second half of this side of the album, but actually, I think the album's strengths lie in the second half. You've got really good upbeat numbers. Bread, butter, tea, sugar. It's like a funky stomper, almost like from the era of glam rock. That like yeah, it's got great energy. It's got fun lyrics. It's really good, and that yeah, the rest of the songs they really play to the band's strengths, in that, yeah, they've got fantastic energy. They're really tight musically. The lyrics are really on point, and they've got such a wonderful emotive delivery from Ellie, that I really feel that, yeah, the best stuff is on the second half of the album, and that a tune like White Horses, even though it's sung by the drummer, who is Joel Amy, yeah, it's proper Wolf Alice, in that it's upbeat. It feels kind of dangerous and exciting. If you hear it, it will do. And then Ellie sings the chorus, and it's this wonderful kind of soaring voice that kind of comes in like a wonderful bird sweeping through a clearing. There's all these references to the woods and the white horses, and yeah, it's great. And then possibly my favourite song on the album is "The Sofa," which is it's everything that you want from this band. It's playful, it's slightly idiosyncratic. It's a lovely love letter to kind of louching around, doing nothing, kind of wondering where you are in life and where you want to go. There's references to Seven Sisters, where the band live,
And yeah, it is. I think this is a lovely song. It kind of goes in the canon of great London tunes for me. Kind of, I'm thinking of things like Blurs for Tomorrow, or dare I even say Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks. I think it's a really brilliant song. It's a great way to end the album. So I do really like the album. If I'm being honest, it's maybe not my favourite of theirs. I think this. I really hope this will do what the band wants it to do in regards to getting heard by new audiences, possibly being, taking them up festival lineups, festival bills, getting on different radio stations. So, I really do think it is great. As I say, for me, the album kind of loses its way a bit at the back end of the first side. So I'm gonna score the album 7 out of 10 musically.
The other thing I want to talk about this album, which as a vinyl collector I wanted to talk about and discuss, is the fact that I've purchased the Blood Records edition. I don't know if you've come across Blood Records. They are very popular on the Instagrams for pressing very extravagant, colourful, vivid, novel versions of albums for either contemporary artists or reissues of classic artists. They'll do swirls, they'll do rainbows, they'll do glitter. They do a lot of liquid filled records, if you've come across those. And I'd always seen them, and A, they would sell out incredibly quickly. B, they'd never pressed it in an artist that I was like, I was going to buy that record anyway, I want to buy that. And C, they're also quite expensive. And so when the album was announced, I was umming and ahhing about whether to buy, whether to pre-order the Indies edition. There was one with an alternative cover. There was one with a pale green vinyl, I think. And I sat my hands for a bit, and then I saw that Blood Records were doing a flower pressed version. So this is a record that has got dried pressed flowers in the middle, which is obviously the reference to the comeback single Bloom Baby Bloom. When you pre-ordered it, it was 50 quid. I thought, logic be damned. Let's go for it. Let's press the button. And it turned up, and I can't deny it looks absolutely brilliant. You've basically got two records, because that's how they've had to press it. So you've got one slab of vinyl, you've got the pressed flowers in the middle, and you've got the other slab of vinyl for the second side. And where you've kind of got the run out, when you've got the grooves, they kind of distort the flowers a bit, but you can see them in the run out grooves, and they look great. And it is a bit stupid, but I like it. Or it's something different. I mean, when I say I like it, there is a massive whacking downside to this, in that because you've effectively got two records, it weighs twice the weight. And indeed, when I put it on my turntable, I don't need to drop the needle, because it's so thick. It will go when the arm is up. So that's interesting. In fact, actually, I've been meaning to weigh this. Just give me one moment for some scales. Okay, so audiophiles always wang on about 180 grams for a heavyweight record, and that's a bit of a misnomer, if I'm being honest. You get a perfectly good record pressing with a lighter record, and likewise you can have a terrible pressing with a heavy record. So this Wolf Alice The Clearing Blood Records Pressed Flowers edition comes in at 318. So that's what, 150. So yeah, that's basically 260 gram records stuck on top of a sandwich of that. And I think I think my biggest downside is that if you're using the amount of PVC to make 2 records, you should be making 2 records. Another slight concern I had about buying this record, I was speaking with a record store owner I know who had purchased numerous records from Blood Records. He had kind of said that, yeah, they look great, but the sound quality of the pressing isn't always that fantastic. And so I was slightly concerned about that. And my fears were kind of allayed when I listened to the record, in that, yeah, it sounds fine. I must admit, I do have to crank it a bit louder on my amplifier to get the volume that I usually listen to records at. That's not a big deal. The main thing is about the sound quality. You know, it's I don't know whether it was cut quiet deliberately. You know, yeah, I may have liked a bit more juice in the grooves, but apart from that, it's fine. But yeah, as I was saying, the main thing is that if you've got the amount of PVC for 2 records, you should be pressing 2 records. And so, whilst this is fun, it's a novelty. I can't really endorse, you know, be that a liquid-filled record, something fun like this. You know, it's kind of, it takes the novelty value a bit too far. Again, music, I give it 7. In regards to the vinyl package, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It does look brilliant, but the fact that it's a bit quiet, you're using a lot of wax, you know, just for a single disc. Can't really justify that. So, and also it did cost 50 quid as well. So, yeah, mixed.
Bum, 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 bum. Shop and listen to the songs.
Hi there. So, the next part of the show, I want to talk all about vinyl workflow. This could be an absolutely awful thing to record to tape and play to people, or it could be quite useful and insightful. Basically, kind of an extension of the first collection of episodes I had, is just all the little tips, tricks, considerations about how to have a good experience when you're playing your records, because not only will that mean that you get lots of enjoyment from them, hopefully it should mean that they're well looked after. And yeah, even if you're an experienced person, there could just be something like, I'd never thought of that. You know, I'm kind of one of those obsessive types that will watch a YouTube video about 50 different ways to boil an egg, because, you know, there could just be a hint or a tip or something to glean that would be like, yeah, I'm going to give that a try. That could be a game changer. And the reason why I refer to it as a workflow, I'm also a bit of a coffee knob, in that I love, you know, weighing out my beans, grinding my beans, putting them in the portafilter, twiddling about with one of those funny things, you know, tamping them down. And I find that once you've got your workflow, it's really easy to be nice and consistent, and you therefore don't have to think about what you're doing, but you've got a process that it works for you. You can just do it every, you know, time after time without thinking about it. So we've got all of our hi-fi equipment, we've got records here, and all of the stuff. So the first thing, you know, to start with, would be the power to the turntable and the amplifier. For many a year, I would, if I had 2 switches, 2 plugs, with switches right next to each other, I would just think, oh, fantastic, I've got a big thumb, I'm just going to click both of them at the same time. And yeah, it wasn't until I lived in a maisonette with like shared electricity that I realised whenever I did that, the light in my flat would go woo. And actually, looking into it, it's like electricity coming into our plugs isn't as binary as we expect it to be. I mean, obviously, it's either there or not, but it can actually fluctuate quite a lot. And that if you're putting you know, a bigger demand on it by having 2 appliances on the go, then you're really kind of not like stressing the system, but you're causing one of those,
you're causing like a fluctuation in there. So I've got my two plugs, one for the turntable, one for a four-way, which has got various things like my DVD player and my amplifier together. So I don't turn both plugs on at the same time. I let them do one after another. I know you're thinking this guy is really telling us how to suck eggs, but yeah, it's one then the other, just like that. I then move on to the amplifier, turn it on. So while this is turning on, it may already be in the phono input. Indeed it is. That's just nice, giving that a minute or so to warm up whilst I move on to the turntable. So I've chosen my record, and I know like a lot of people kind of put off at the idea of handling records. They like the idea of the music, but like it seems all a bit unwieldy. And I would say that it can be to start off with, but everybody sort of like finds their groove and finds their way around handling records in a way that they're comfortable with and that they enjoy. Before I get it out, I get the turntable ready. I've got a dust cover to lift up, and I've got a record clamp. So this sits on the spindle in the center of the platter, and I take that off. I use one of these for a few reasons. One, I think aesthetically they look nice. It's nice watching it spin round. I think there is sound logic behind the theory that it's pushing down on the record, which means that the needle or the arm can kind of go deeper, or it gets less resistance in the grooves. So it helps with that transcription process. But I think more importantly than that, it kind of makes me slow down when I'm putting my records on and off. It helps me enjoy the ritual of it, so that's quite nice. I've got my record here. I would say that with these, when you're handling records, let gravity be your friend. So if it's coming out of the cover, you've got the inner sleeve, let that drop out of the cover, just by pointing it downwards. So you just need a minimal force. You shouldn't really force anything with records ever. As Al Stewart said, if it doesn't come naturally, leave it. And likewise, when you're taking the records out of the inner sleeves, I have it in the crook of my hand. So that's the cliff between my thumb and index finger. So it sits there kind of nicely balanced, with my fingers on the sticker in the middle and the record in the hook of my thumb. So the record goes onto the platter, clamp goes on, give it a little twist to tighten. And so before I turn the record player on, what I like to do, because this is a belt-driven turntable, and a lot of home turntables are belt-driven, the other main kind you find are direct-driven ones. They're usually more for DJs. But if you imagine you've got your motor underneath, that's not turning the platter, spinning it directly. You've got a belt that will turn the sub platter, and that turns the platter. You'll see quite obviously if you've got a belt driven one, rather than having the motor on the turntable kind of having to pull everything from a start, I just find I'm just being a bit nicer to my equipment if I just give it a spin, then turn it on, so that it doesn't have that kind of initial kind of retch of kind of like, so yeah, that's just what I do. So giving it a nice gentle spin. On with the power. So we've got our record spinning. I always give the needle a visual inspection, just to make sure that it's not picked up any dust or clumps of grime from the previous playing. I've got myself here a little cleaning gadget. It's an Onzo. It's like a little blob of kind of not like a putty, but like it's a sticky gel solid thing that kind of you can pop it up against the needle and it will remove any grime. They're not cheap actually, and I found out that you can use just a little strip of, those magic wall erasers, those sponges that you damp to kind of clear off stubborn stains on your wall. If you have one of those, obviously don't get it wet, but they actually do the job really well. The way that they're pH balanced means that they won't damage your stylus, but they will take off any dust or grease that you've got on your needle. So I can imagine some of you listening are like, do we really need a stylus cleaning device? Could we not just blow any dust and grease off, or maybe even just flick it off with our pinky? And I would be an absolute liar if I said I'd never done these things before. And it's kind of one of those grey areas where there's a bit of science, there's a bit of hearsay, in that if you think about your breath, it's got a fair bit of moisture on there, which may not be good for your stylus, and your fingers have got like potential grease. So it's one of those ones I categorize as like hi-fi agnostic, in that it's not an absolute hill I'm going to die on, but there probably is something there, and there's probably a reason why so many people have got stylus cleaners. The other thing I do before putting the needle on is that I've got just a little microfiber brush that kind of goes across the one half of the record, and that's just great for picking up any surface dust that may have accumulated, since it was previously played. And it's also quite a good test, because when I'm using this brush, if I get much resistance from the record, it kind of implies to me that it is in need of a clean, and that there's quite a lot of build-up of moisture, potentially grease, dust, those sorts of things. I will cover cleaning records in another episode. You lucky people. The boredom is not done yet. When will he get to enjoying the records? So yeah, we'll cover cleaning records another time. But yeah, if it feels by taking that brush over that you need a clean, then yeah, give it a clean. So take the clasp off the arm, hold the arm over where we want to start the record. Usually that's the running groove, and then we've got a little lever which will drop the arm for us. Lovely. So there we are. So we're enjoying our record, and we basically do the same in reverse when we come to stop the record. So first of all, it's with the tone arm. We lift that up. We pull the tone arm off the record, put it in the clasp, turn the power off, and we take the clamp off, turn the record over, or we change the record. The only thing that I really want to say about when you're done with your listening is not to turn your amplifier off at the plug. I've done this accidentally before, and basically, because these are direct current appliances, the electricity that goes through them basically has nowhere to go, and so it makes the most god-awful noise on my machine if I do it. So yeah, most importantly, when you're done listening, turn the amplifier off and then the plug off. Yeah, so that's record sucking eggs 101. Hey.
Shop and listen to the songs.
So this next bit of the program about the Mercury Prize does go on for quite a while. I completely would understand and empathise if you didn't want to hear a guy just talking about or discovering a load of albums that he'd never heard. There is a particularly pertinent and relevant bit at 65 minutes though in. I do recommend you listen to that. But otherwise, having said that,
do enjoy the Mercury Prize.
So then, the Mercury Prize, it's always the big blue ribbon event of the UK album calendar. It's been going for over 20 years now. It's gone to some absolutely amazing artists. Looking at some of the previous winners, you've got classic albums like Primal Scream, Screamadelica, Pulp, Different Class, Portishead Dummy, Badly Drawn Boy, PJ Harvey's won it a couple of times. So not only does it give wonderful exposure to those well-established artists, it also gives a spotlight for less-known up-and-coming artists. I can see less household names that have won it previously. Talvin Singh won it. Not many people had heard of Ms. Dynamite or Dizzy Rascal when they won it. Speech the Bell. So yeah, it's a real eclectic mix of the current UK album scene. And as you know from listening to me, I think albums are the best. How there's such a brilliant body of work that encapsulates a particular artist at a particular time, and that you can live inside them and just really get a sense of narrative that runs through it. So what I thought we'd do today is enjoy the 2025 ceremony. As I say, not only is it a wonderful thing for the person or the act that wins the prize, but also it's just really great at highlighting a wonderful showcase of albums that may need the publicity, that may need the attention. And so let's watch the ceremony, and we can talk about it and see what was fun about it. So, for the first time, the prize has left London. It's gone to Newcastle. It's still hosted by the BBC. They're doing a brilliant Newcastle montage of all the various music scenes that there are in the city. And so the prize is hosted in the Utilita Arena. They've moved it out of London, as I say, and it has moved around its venues quite a lot. In the 90s, it was in a hotel ballroom, and then it kind of went a bit wilderness, going from places like the Hammersmith Apollo. It was once in the Radio Theatre Broadcasting House. And so I think it's good that they're mixing it up, and it's quite nice that it's a good size arena that bands can properly stretch out and perform to their full potential. It's being hosted by Lauren Laverne. As always, you're in incredibly safe hands with her on the presenting chops. And yeah, it's really nice to see that she's looking so well and radiant after her recent health issues. So that's great. And so it's a really great ceremony because you get that great mix of live performances and just appreciation of how a band not only talks about their album, but also how they perform live. And yeah, kicking off the ceremony, we have got none other than Pulp. I mean, what a brilliant way to start any ceremony or just anything ever. Oh, you've got Richard Hawley there looking great. Sunglasses, obviously. But yeah, you've got the full band. You've got the backing singers. You've got some people on strings. They're performing Spike Island. And yeah, Jarvis, suitably dapper. But he's in proper full Pulp Jarvis mode. I could talk for absolutely ages how this has been the best musical comeback of the year. Not for the fact that they reformed or the fact they've done a tour, but how, More, the album, is genuinely brilliant. It's obviously a Pulp album, but it's also new and fresh and completely original, which I think to come back after 20 years and do that is just absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favourite albums of the year by a country mile. I mean, I'd probably not listen to as many new albums as a lot of people who compile the list that will be coming out, but I'm so relieved that they came back and it wasn't just a pastiche. It wasn't just old material like a lot of bands that come back. And also, more importantly, I think it kind of reminds everybody that Jarvis Cocker was also a frontman of a brilliant Britpop band. It's a bit like when you see Gen Z go, was David Beckham also a footballer? And yeah, because he does so many
diverse projects, and he gets such acclaim for them just because he wiggled his bum at Michael Jackson back in the day in the Brits, that it's like, oh yeah, this is why we love him, and this is what he was born to do. You know, there's a great line in this Spike Island song where it goes, I was born to do this, shouting and pointing. Yeah, you really were, Jarvis. So thank you very much. And I don't know what they'll do next year off the back of this album. You know, it's hard to resist the allure, you know, when people want you to do festivals and another tour. You know, they could over-egg it. We'll see. But no, I would have loved if they had won the prize, but also they don't need it. It's a brilliant album on its own, and yeah, everyone loves it. So well done. Thank you. Also, I must admit, I am really quite gutted in myself that I didn't plump for going to see them on tour this year. It would have been great. I should have had faith. So yeah, shame on me. Okay, moving on. So you get these really nice album review kind of encapsulations by Lauren, which is just nice, kind of giving them a bit more context than just the tunes you've heard off the radio. Yeah, it's so well done. You know, everything segs really nicely, one thing into another. I don't know what the experience is like being there in the venue, but yeah, as a viewer, it's really nice. So we're going for a run through of the albums. You've got Sam Fender, People Watching. I've not heard it. I kind of, you know, I like what I've heard. The next one is Pink Pantheress, Fancy That. I don't know this artist. Fontaine's DC, Romance. For me, this is the best album of the year. I think it's brilliant. It's not only got cult potential, it's just, yeah, it's wonderful. Passalio, African Alien. Again, I don't know this artist. It's quite interesting, the snippet. The next one here is Jacob Allon, In Limerence. It's a really cool art cover. I look forward to their performance. Wolf Alice, The Clearing. As discussed earlier in the show, you know, a slightly new direction for them, but still brilliant and really solid. Martin Carthy, Transform Me Then Into a Fish, which is a great title. Pulp, More. We just saw them. Brilliant. We've got FKA Twigs, Eusexua. I don't know this, to be honest. The obligatory jazz pick, Joe Webb, Hamstrings and Hurricanes. Looks jazzy. Emma Jean Thackeray, Weirdo. She's an artist that I have been meaning to get into. Yeah, I look forward to hearing her performance. We've got CMAT with Euro Country. Yeah, I look forward to them later in the show. So, who is up next musically? Excellent. A Wolf Alice performance, never a bad thing. They're the first band to be nominated for 4 consecutive albums, which is a really brilliant feat. And I think it's, you know, decided by committee. And so it's no coincidence that, yeah, they're a brilliant band. And, you know, this, even though it's a slight change of direction, it's still great. And so, yeah, what are they performing? Bloom Baby Bloom, excellence. And so I think they've just come back off their North American tour. So I'm sure it would have been quite easy to sit this out and go like, oh, do you know what, we're really bushed. But yeah, the publicity of the Mercury Prize is just too good. And another really great thing about watching a band live is that it reassures you that what you're hearing on the album isn't tweaked or isn't mimicked and kind of played around with. This sounds a wonderful representation of what is on the album. And yeah, it's clearly all being played live and sounds great. Oh, is that Lewis Capaldi in the crowd? I think, was he on the panel? Possibly.
Yeah, you can easily see why they chose this as the comeback single. It's got all of their essential elements. It's energetic, it's poised, it's got sharp lyrics, it's got a lovely hooks and licks. And so yeah, if you're not into them already, get into them. If you haven't got their albums, you're in for a treat. Yeah, I really look forward to their world domination. So the next featured album up is CMAD. Yeah, singer-songwriter, quirky. Right, so CMAD's not performing at the ceremony. Doctor's orders, fair enough. I imagine it's been a very demanding singing season. They're showing the Glastonbury performance, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's one of those things where the number of people that say, "Oh yeah, brilliant," there must be something there, and I'm like, "Am I not getting it? What am I not getting here?" Let's have a bit more of a listen. I realise that I'm sound a bit like a one-man Beavis and Butthead there, reviewing all the people. I mean, we've got real musicians playing real instruments, actually singing. It's nice enough. It's pretty mellow. I'm curious to see where this song is going to go. Still waiting to see where the song's going to go. I mean, yeah, it's all, musically worthy. It's earnest, and I'm sure there's what's this song called? Running Planning. I'm sure there's a message behind it. But yeah, it's not exciting me. I'm going to move on, to be honest. So next up, we've got Martin Carthy, Transform Me Then Into a Fish, an album I don't know. I'd only heard about it when the list was announced. Martin Carthy, obviously a legacy artist who's been around, since forever, really. An absolute legend. And I believe he's the oldest person to be nominated for a Mercury. So it's great of the prize that, it's clearly not ageist. His live performance here, there's somebody with a sitar, he's playing acoustic guitar, and there's somebody on a violin/viola, and they're doing a really nice version of Scarborough Fair. It's a classic staple of the folk scene. It always sounds great. You'd be really hard pressed to do a bad version of this. And with all of his experience and gravitas, he really gives that weight that goes so well with the song. If I was being honest, I don't think, they would award the prize to Martin here, because I can't imagine that it's going to really shift the needle for his sales, and that it would be a bit of a waste giving it to him, because the kids aren't going to be like, "Oh shit, have you heard this album? There's this really, really senior guy, and he's playing with a sitar and a violin player. It's great that he's getting the spotlight because of the prize." But I can also see why he didn't win it. But yeah, he's getting a great reception there, as he should do. Wonderful. So they've got the artwork behind Lauren of two of the artists that I don't recognise. So I'll be curious to see what their performances are like. There's lovely Lauren, keeping the vibes, keeping the energy up. I can't imagine how hard it would be to host an awards ceremony. I don't know how long the actual thing is they edit it down to. But yeah, needing to keep the room going, like, and another act you may or most likely haven't heard of. Okay, so the next album up is Parsley. It's a mixtape with various collaborations. So we've got a rapper with a live band. He's got two percussionists, and he's got a horn player. He's dressed in a really natty, like leopard skin vest. It's kind of like a security thing. It looks great. Yeah, it's obviously really strong Afrobeat scene. He's got great energy. I really love how he's got two fancy dress people that are just they're human pom poms in orange and red. Yeah, looks great. Sounds really cool. Great energy. And yeah, I think this is what the Mercury Prize is for, really, to kind of give a spotlight and a showcase for people who've very much gone under the radar, or have just been within their genre when the album was released, and you're bringing them to a new audience. This guy's got a live performance on national TV, which is brilliant. Yeah, I like this. Even if I'm probably not gonna, be running to my local record store for it. I think we're going to be talking about Fontaine's DC Romance. Yeah, it is just absolutely wonderful. I was saying to people how it reminds me quite a lot of Screamadelica, but in the way that early '90s culture was dominated by ecstasy. This is Screamadelica, but for the ketamine generation, and the sounds they're driving, but they're slightly subversive. The lyrics are pure poetry. It is just a great album from start to finish. I can't recommend it enough. I think the band aren't performing because they're bushed after a long tour, but they've got some footage from their summer show in Finsbury Park. Again, they're playing Starburster. Again, I'm really sore with myself because I didn't go. I knew that it would have been a great gig, when at the time when everyone was talking about like stupidly expensive Oasis tickets. I'm like, don't go watch a band 20 years after their prime. Go watch a band in their prime. But I pussied out. So, more for me. But this concert footage looks absolutely brilliant. It's moodily lit. There's flares in the crowd. You've got the trees of Finsbury Park, and Galen, the front man, is wearing a kilt, which is just always the coolest item of clothing to be wearing at any occasion. Yeah, it's dark, it's moody, it's pretty angry. Yeah. I'm so glad to see how they've evolved as a band. I always thought that when they came out that, yeah, it's a good sound, but it's stuck in third gear. It was just, 90 miles an hour down a straight road. Yeah, there's very little variety to it from the start. But, clearly a lot of talent. And now, they've developed, they've expanded their influences, and yeah, it's really, really paying off for them. I can't wait for them to be headlining big festivals, bringing their very urgent message. So yeah, that's brilliant. I really hope that the rest of that concert has been filmed. They've done it in a very high production value way, that it wouldn't make any sense not to film the rest of it. And so yeah, hopefully you'll get to enjoy that. If that's your bag at some point. Right, who have we got? So we are talking about. I don't know, who are we talking about actually? I missed it at the start, but it's a 19-track album, which is great. Lots of different influences. Grief. Oh, it's Emma Jean Thackeray. Her album's called Weirdo. The tune that she's playing here is called Save Me. What have we got? We've got Emma front and centre on electric guitar. We've got a bassist behind her. We've got a drummer
to her left, and we've got a piano player to her right. It's nice, upbeat, it's funky. Yeah, between the bass player and the drummer, it's got a pretty soulful, funky vibe. She's got a really nice voice. Yeah, I'd heard really good things, and it's not disappointed, which is nice. Yeah, her and her band definitely have those live chops. You know, sometimes you're watching a band and you're like, you're really like playing to like the limits of your potential here, or kind of the limits of your energy, and it's kind of like they look as if they're just holding a bit back. They've got it within them to kind of really go another gear if they want to, but they're just quite happy there. So yeah, that's nice to see. She's got a lovely Les Paul guitar, sunburst with the cutouts. It's always nice to see. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a listen to. Thank you, Mercury. Okay, who's up next? Excellent. Thank you, Lauren. Limerence, Alon's album In Limerence, is the obsessive state that precedes falling in love. I knew I'd heard that term earlier, a bit like the Moisturizer Wet Leg album. So this is Jacob Alon's performance from their album In Limerence. So I don't know if you heard, they spent the intro of their performance singing Free Palestine, which is just it's a very ballsy move. Props to them, for using their platform for such a righteous statement. So yeah, well done. But yeah, we've got a singer-songwriter performing solo with an acoustic guitar. They've got a lovely tender voice. Yeah, there's a lot to like. It's obviously there's lots of influences. It's playing guitar and singing. You know, how original can it be? But it still is incredibly captivating and moving. I'm really enjoying this. Whilst watching this, I've been trying all the time to think like, who does this person remind me of? There is there's a touch of Jeff to it. But also I think they sound quite like themselves. Nicely original. I think I will go and check out this album off the back of this. Jacob Alon. And again, they mentioned Free Palestine. That is Lewis Capaldi. Yeah, really good. So we've got the FKA Twigs album up next. Eusexua. I've not heard it. Described as experimental. Kind of. I don't really know how to classify her as an artist, like the genre. Yeah, kind of dancey. Let's get to the performance. So she's front and center of the stage, just with a microphone, and she's surrounded by various stations of, they look like producers / music knob twiddlers. How many of them are there? They're all at different tables of varying heights. I'm not sure how secure they're looking. You've got 4 producers. I'm not hearing enough to warrant four producers, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I'm going to call shenanigans on this. I think you basically needed one person to press the tape, but the record company thought, no, it will look more authentic if we have 4 different people, kind of all slightly dancing, but also twiddling knobs and pushing buttons. I mean, if they are doing something towards the music, then they're stealing a living. I mean, yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. I don't want to say, yeah, this is rubbish, but there's nothing here. Yeah, I hope those drama students are getting a good fee for their for their pretending to be music producers on that stage there. That is, yeah, that's not cricket. Okay, so moving on, who have we got next? We must be coming towards the end. We've got Pink Pantheress. She's not there. She's given a message. They've got a performance of hers from a festival somewhere. The tune's called Illegal. Yeah, this music's not for me. I haven't really got a strong opinion about it either way. I'm going to move on. So who's Lauren got here? Oh, we've got the jazz. It's the jazz one. There's always a folk, a world, or a jazz act. And this is, I mentioned earlier, somebody Webb. He's having a very nice time with his piano. Has he got a band with him? Again, it's really great that an unrecognised act is getting the publicity. It could open up a whole new group of fans for them. I hope it does well. Obviously, Ezra Collective won it a couple of years ago, so we're probably not going to get a world/alternative/ jazzy winner for another fair while. But your man here, he's performing with a double bass player, which is always fantastic, and a drummer. Yeah, it's really nice. Sorry, saying it's really nice is a backhanded insult, but yeah, it's good. I like it, but I don't love it. Yeah, let's move on. So we must be getting close towards the end. Yeah, and so it's the hometown boy. They've kept him until last. It's Sam Fender. He's on his third album now. He seems an immensely likable person, which I know shouldn't be a way to judge his music, but yeah, I could definitely enjoy a good amount of time with him. We'd talk football, I'm sure, which would be great. And yeah, people seem to really like him. And I was speaking to a friend about him the other day because sometimes I worry in life that I always think, the train has passed for that. You've missed your opportunity to get on board with that. You just got to let it go. And that, as I get older, I'm like, no, you're never too late to enjoy something or kind of see if it's for you. And I was asking, like, should I get on board with Sam Fender? And he said, nah, there's nothing there. I'm watching this live performance, and he's got a full band, backing singers, and all I'm hearing is it's a cover version of The War on Drugs. That kind of Bruce Springsteen-esque kind of, it's building up, and we got the backing. And yep, sure enough, there's a horn section that's going to come in soon. And yeah, I can't not hear The War on Drugs. I think Lost in a Dream is probably one of the best albums this century. And yeah, I want to like it. And I should, because, it's guitar music. It's a singer-songwriter who's being earnest and, heartfelt. I'm fully prepared to acknowledge that this could be, lacking on my behalf. But no, I can't get into it. So yeah, as we all know, Sam did win the prize. Well done to him. It is good that it goes to a popular artist once in a while. If it doesn't, it's not going to shift the needle for his numbers. Other people have had really good publicity off it, and yeah, it's just a great opportunity to celebrate albums. I think as a platform of soft power, we just completely neglect in this country how wonderful, how we're projected across the world by our artists. We may may not all massively get on with, either Sam Fender or Adele or Ed Sheeran or Mumford & Sons or Coldplay or all of these things. But they give us a huge standing in the world, a huge platform that when you've got awful autocrats who are buying sports events, who are buying competitions or buying cultural institutions, it should remind us that, we're incredibly lucky to have a wonderful artistic cachet in this country, and it goes around the world and it's loved, and we punch above our weight so well. And under previous governments, culture and the arts was not neglected. That would be far too kind to say. Denigrated and demolished. And what I really fear, as a dad, is that it's just going to be a pursuit of the privileged. I worry that it is just going to be the domain of posh kids who don't need jobs. So yeah, albums, British albums, go and support them. Go and buy one right now. Download one. If there wasn't anything on this list, go buy a previous All Alice album. So yeah, lots here to enjoy, and brilliant coverage. So thanks, BBC. Just a little quibble. They're getting ready for another performance, and then he does the same song again that he performs before they all deliberated. And yeah, it's a good song, but it's like, you've got a whole live band there, and you've got a whole album of material. Could we had something else, please? Yeah, that's just me being an old curmudgeon. But yeah, Mercury Prize 2025, very good. Thank you very much. Hiya! So thank you for sticking with me. It's amazing how I can take a 90-minute ceremony and condense it down to an eternity. Just a few bits of housekeeping before we wrap up. Sam Fender actually gave his £25,000 cash prize for the Mercury to the Music Venue Trust, which is an incredibly brilliant act. I'm taking my hat off if I was wearing one. That's just great. So thank you, Sam. Live music is the lifeblood of all new music. Yeah, another couple of things just to leave you before we go. I saw that King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard released one of their other live albums. They've got a ridiculous volume of live material that they put out, and all of their vinyl records are just ridiculous in regards to how they looked, in the best way, I should say. I'll be honest, the music's not for me, but I saw that they've done a circular saw edition where basically the outside of the vinyl is cut away to look like a circular saw. It just looks so much fun. If you want to go and find that online, that's really great. And the other thing that I would just point you towards until the next edition is that Nick Cave's Stranger Than Kindness exhibition has a virtual online space where you can wander around virtually the exhibit and see everything that's in there and experience the lovely little audio guide things that he's done. You can read all the notes, see all his pictures, and yeah, I was really surprised with how moved and how effective it was being online. The actual exhibit itself is in Copenhagen, and it was due to open just before the COVID lockdowns. And so a lot of people who would have seen this didn't get to. And yeah, having it online is really brilliant. So you can enjoy that if you go to the nickcaveexhibition.com. As I say, it's in conjunction with the Copenhagen Library. And yeah, it's just brilliant just to kind of snoop around, kind of see all the different things you can spot. And it just gives you even more appreciation of him, which I look forward to covering in further depth in the future. Just to say then, thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate it. If you want to drop us a line, you can do that at shutupandlistentothesongs@gmail.com. We'd be happy to take your emails about any subjects you want discussing. And you can find us on Instagram at ShutUpListenPod.
Thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure. Take care.
Shut up and listen to the songs.